Over the next few seasons, we will see 3 different races in the United States, which can be traced back to its explosion of popularity on this side of the Atlantic. But that was not always the case, and there have been times in the past where there have been no United States races. So let's look back at the history of the United States Grand Prix and how we've gotten to where we are today. Formula 1.
It's the Bahrain Grand Prix, and it's lights out and away we go!
It is a sport where emotions run high.
The championship can only be won by one, and it's going Dutch in 2021!
From the excitement of winning a world championship,
Max Verstappen, you are the world champion!
to the heartbreak of defeat.
No, Mikey, no, Mike, that was so not right.
The sport is special, and in recent years, I have fallen in love with the sport known as Formula 1, aka F1. And I am not the only person in the United States to do so. The popularity of F1 in the States has exploded, and looks to be continuing in an upward trajectory going into this season. ESPN viewership numbers of the sport are up 28%, with broadcasts across ESPN, ESPN2, and ABC averaging 1.21 million viewers, although the championship fight was wrapped up with weeks left in the season. On top of that, 12 races individually set an all-time American viewership record, including the first edition of the brand new Miami Grand Prix with 2.58 million average viewers. The 18 to 49-year-old demographic is up 29%, while the 12 to 17 is up 49%, along with seeing an increase in the female demographic. This coming season, we will see 3 races in the United States, and for the first time since 2015, the grid will have an American driver in Logan Sargent. The sport is growing, and it's growing fast in the United States, but it begs the question, why now? I want to answer that question, so through this 8-part series, I will be looking into why F1 is finally finding so much success in the United States, and what the future of the sport may look like. You are not going to want to miss this. After a few unsuccessful races in the United States throughout the 1950s, F1 finally found its home for an extended period of time at Watkins Glen in New York. The first iteration of the track was short with only 8 corners and overlapped the non-permanent street design, which made it a challenging track. Then in 1971, there was the addition of the boot section, which added an extra element to the end of the lap. Throughout the 70s, it was upgraded, widened, and tweaked to add safety, but in the end, the development of the ground effect cars would prove its demise. Due to how fast and challenging the track was, it became too dangerous and was under fire for not having adequate facilities. It hosted its final race in 1980. In 1976, F1 decided to add the United States Grand Prix West in Long Beach, California. The circuit was designed to become the Monaco Grand Prix of the United States, with its rapid shoreline drive straight leading into the tight hairpin, followed by a sequence of chicanes. It was regularly tweaked and upgraded in accordance with year-on-year concerns, such as the location of the pits or the safety concerns over the layout, with the idea of the track taking over for the aging Watkins Glen. It was a hit and beloved by many, and it looked like it was going to be the future United States Grand Prix for years to come, until race organizer Chris Pook decided IndyCar was a better use of the money. In 1981, Formula 1 moved to Las Vegas. When you think of Las Vegas hosting a race, you think of the Strip and all the cool attractions in the city. The original track design for Las Vegas decided not to go down that route, instead choosing to host the race in a parking lot of the Caesar Palace Hotel. While a terrible idea, the track was actually put together well. There was an ample runoff, and for a street circuit, room for overtaking. It's easy to see why a Las Vegas Grand Prix had its appeals. Caesar's Palace gave it an extra gravitas, and this was a sensible place to try to establish F1 as a force in the US. It instead failed, and F1 was off again looking for a new home. F1 would then move its United States Grand Prix to Detroit, where they would race from 1982 to 1988. This was a street circuit through and through with sharp turns and a strange looking layout, but turned out to be a decent layout. 2 challenging hairpins were the cornerstones of the early design, though one was scrapped in 1983. An attempt at innovation included a backdrop of General Motors headquarters, the Renaissance Center, a tunnel, and even a railroad track crossing. Its demise would be caused by the below-par pit lane complex, which caused it to be eliminated from the calendar. The track would not go down without a fight, as during the final race, the circuit actually broke apart due to the intense temperatures. While there was the race in Detroit, there was also a race held in Dallas in 1984. And at first, the race looked promising. Its demise would be the fact that the construction was rushed and the track began to crumble during qualifying and even broke apart during the early part of the race. The circuit was constructed at Fair Park and conceived a way of showcasing Dallas as a city, although there was no F1 history. The track layout was a sequence of twists and turns that led to a pair of straights before a tight finish to the final lap. The United States Grand Prix name returned for the first time since 1980 and 1989 when the race was hosted in Phoenix. The Phoenix Street Circuit in the center of the city was unpopular with drivers, and the event was largely ignored by the local populace. Phoenix, like many American cities, was designed on the grid system. The circuit was made up entirely of second gear 90-degree corners and provided nearly no driving challenge or exciting corners to watch cars go around. The circuit was less bumpy and wider than Detroit, and its long straights made it easy to overtake and difficult to judge braking. The original event was held on short notice and in June. I don't know if you know anything about Phoenix in June, but it is hot. Like cooking eggs on the hood of your car hot. The race moved to March for the following season. In October of 1991, members of the International Auto Sports Federation, FISA, decided to cancel the contract with Phoenix. There were rumors of a race on the streets of the Manhattan borough of New York City for 1992 and a race on the streets of the Las Vegas Strip for 1995, but these never materialized, and a Formula One event would not be held in the United States for the next 9 years. You know, a race in Manhattan has always been something that interests me, or one in Hoboken, with the New York skyline and Statue of Liberty in the background. In 2000, after 4 decades, F1 made its return to Indianapolis with a road course that implemented the famous oval. The first race drew a massive crowd of over 200,000, justifying the efforts to reinstate the race. The honeymoon stage wouldn't last very long though, and things got bad in 2005 when only 6 cars started the race. A little background information. The 2005 season saw a new rule introducing that restricted drivers to a single set of tires for qualifying in the race. Bridgestone and its sole frontline user Ferrari struggled to adapt, leaving the Michelin teams led by McLaren, Renault, Williams, and Toyota to set the pace. And then we went to Indianapolis and everything changed. After 2 crashes at the beginning of the weekend, alarm bells began to go off for the Michelin tire runners. There was a wave created in the sidewall as he went around the banking, and it was a question of the frequency of the tire relative to the design of the tire. It's like those old suspension bridges when the wind blows and the frequency is right and they just fall apart. The Michelin teams held a meeting that night, and the idea of introducing a chicane took hold. A similar thing had been done at the last minute at the 1994 Spanish Grand Prix, so team bosses felt like there was a precedent. This idea was scrapped by FIA race director Charlie Whiting, who was concerned over safety and the lack of simulations if there was a change to the track. Meanwhile, in a last-ditch attempt to investigate the issue, a random selection of 26 tires were flown to the Michelin R&D base in Akron, Ohio, on a small cargo plane. The FIA agreed on the basis that technical delegate Joe Bauer chaperoned them, and along with 3 Michelin engineers, the German was given the use of the McLaren private jet. Nothing new was learned, and the trip was viewed as a failure. Sunday morning before the race, there were heated meetings trying to figure out a solution. Michelin basically said they couldn't let their partners race unless a chicane was put in due to safety concerns with the tire. In the end, the Michelin runners decided to pull out of the United States Grand Prix. After the required formation was complete, 14 cars pulled into the pit lane, leaving just 6 Bridgestone cars to start on the grid. The race ran with just 6 Bridgestone cars from Ferrari, Jordan, and Minardi taking part. After the race, there were fights between Michelin and the FIA, and the 7 Michelin tire teams were summoned to a World Sports Council hearing where they were found guilty of failing to ensure that they were in possession of suitable tires for the 2005 US Grand Prix, but with strong mitigating circumstances, and of wrongfully refusing to allow their cars to start the race, having regard to their right to use the pit lane on each lap. The race was later dropped in 2007 after Bernie Ecclestone and promoters got into an argument over the cost of hosting a Grand Prix. Bernie vowed never to return to Indianapolis, and there were no plans to return to the States anytime soon. Plans were announced for a race in New York City that would actually take place along the Hudson River on the Jersey side with the New York skyline in the background. Plans were later scrapped. In 2010, it was announced that the United States Grand Prix would return, this time in Austin, Texas, at the Circuits of America, aka Kota. Attendance numbers were not looking great in 2015, and funding cuts occurred. 2016 saw its best attendance at the time, and to today, it has continued to increase since. In 2022, we saw the addition of the Miami Grand Prix, which featured 19 corners with the longest of the 3 straights at 4,212 feet. The track widened to 50 feet on one straight and narrows to 32.7 feet at another point, with the tightest of the corners at 33 feet of radius. This race surrounded the Miami Dolphins football stadium campus. In the center of the track, near turns 11, 12, and 13, there was a 24,000 square foot beach club featuring a resort-style pool with luxury cabanas, bars, and DJs playing music. A Monaco-inspired fake marina yacht club was constructed, completed with about a dozen dry dock yachts, on the infield of turns 6, 7, and 8. Some race patrons paid $38,000 for a 4-person yacht club package, or $19,000 for 2-person pass, or $9,500 for a single. Later this year, we will also see the addition of the Las Vegas Grand Prix, with this version of the race taking place on the Strip this time. It is an exciting time to be an F1 fan in the United States, with 3 races across the country. I actually hope to get to one soon. If you found this part exciting, you will love part 6, where I go over the new US-based teams joining the grid. You won't want to miss it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out one of my other videos right here. Make sure to subscribe for more quality content, and thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.